Hello, how are you? I've just got to tell you this story I've heard about this guy who used to live in Norfolk. And it's such a weird story because the man used to be a really, really rich businessman. And he lived in London with his 3 daughters. Now, he had 3 daughters, and the 2 oldest daughters, they were really horrible. They weren't nice at all. They were really sort of selfish and, oh, we're the best. And they wouldn't share ever because they were selfish, and they were really proud. So they always used to think they were the most beautiful and, oh, we're fantastic, like this. And just weren't nice. And actually, they weren't really that pretty either, because they had a young sister, the 3rd daughter, and everyone called her Beauty, because she was really, really beautiful. And also she had a lovely personality. So Beauty was the youngest of them. And anyway, this guy, this really rich merchant man, like a businessman, he used to live in a really big house in London. Now, in this house, they had everything. Like, they had a sauna, and they had indoor swimming pool, and they even had like a helipad, like a thing for helicopters on the roof and things. So he had lots and lots of money. But then one day he went on a business trip, and when he came back, some people had cheated him. And then all his businesses had gone without money, and they were all just went really badly. And then within the next week or 2, he'd lost everything. And he knew that even if he sold his fantastic house, all that money would have to go back to the banks and back to these other business people that had cheated him. So he was really depressed. So he came back from the business meeting and he said, look, daughters, come and talk to me. So the 3 daughters came down, Beauty and the two sisters, who were all, what is it now? Oh, don't want to talk to you. Really grumpy all the time, just not nice. So he said to them, I'm really sorry, girls, but we're no longer rich. We will have to sell our house, and we'll have to move to a small house in the country. Oh, the elder daughters, the old ones, they were really, really angry. Oh, this is not, screaming and shouting. Went up to their room, slamming doors and everything. Really angry about it. But Beauty, the youngest one, said, don't worry, Father. I'm sure it will be fine. We'll look after ourselves. We're a good family. We'll be fine. And we'll make food and things like that. They can grow vegetables, she even said, which is part of what happened, actually. So anyway, they sold this big house, and the older sisters were really grumpy, and they kept telling their father, the minute I can, I'm finding something. I'm getting out of here. I don't want to live with you, you poor, horrible old man. They were just not friendly at all. Anyway, they moved out into the country. This is where they moved out to Norfolk, to a really nice little house with lots of fields and things. Well, not fields, but a big garden. And anyway, the father and the daughter, Beauty, worked really hard in the garden. And they made lovely vegetables, and they used to take them down to the local marketplace and sell the vegetables. And everyone liked the vegetables because they were organic. So they didn't use fertilizer and things like that. Anyway, so they made some money and they managed to survive. But then one day, a really big supermarket telephoned and said, we really like your organic vegetables. We'd like to have a meeting with you. So the father said, wow, if we can do this, we could get lots more money for our vegetables. Well, that's what he thought. But that might not be what happens sometimes, but we'll see. Anyway, so he really thought this would be a good meeting. So he got in his little car. He had a tiny little car. And he drove it off to the meeting. He said, goodbye, daughters. But before he left, he said to the daughters, is there anything you want me to bring you from my trip? Because I'm not sure how long it'll be. And then the first daughter said, yes, I want diamonds. I want a big diamond ring so I can wear it and show off to all my friends. And the second daughter said, I want rubies. No, pearls. I want pearls. Pearls are lovely. And I want pearls. I want a necklace. I want a pearl necklace, and I want rings. I want lovely things. And the last daughter, Beauty, she said, just a lovely white rose would be beautiful, Father, and make sure you bring yourself safely home. That's nice, isn't it? Anyway, so she said that, and the other two said that. He drove off, and he went to the meeting, and everything went really well in the meeting. And this big supermarket said, fantastic, we think your vegetables are brilliant, and we'd like to definitely buy your vegetables all through the summer months, and maybe sometimes in the winter as well. Do you have a greenhouse? Now, a greenhouse is like this glass building, and you can grow vegetables in the winter in it. And he said, yes, I've got a greenhouse. So I said, what we'll do is we'll make yours like the best vegetables, so we can sell it at a really good price, and we can give you a good price for them. And the businessman, the merchant, who was now like a farmer really, he said, fantastic. And even though it wasn't loads and loads of vegetables, it would mean that he and his 3 daughters could live comfortably, and they wouldn't have to worry about things as much. So he was really happy. Anyway, he left the meeting, and he remembered what he promised the daughters. So he went to a little shop, and he got a little diamond, because he didn't have much money. He got a diamond for one of the daughters, and he got a little pearl ring for the other daughter. And then he thought, oh, what about the rose? And there weren't any flower shops in that place. So he was thinking about this anyway, and he got back in his car and he drove towards home. But then it started getting really dark, and the lights on his car weren't very good because his car was quite old. So he thought, it's not very safe, this, and he was a bit lost. Then he saw in the distance a light, and he drove towards that light, and this light was part of a big house. And he drove up this great big driveway to this big house, and he went in through the door, and inside there was no one there. He knocked just to see if he could park his car there and say, can I park and sleep a little bit because I'm very tired and it's dangerous to drive. But he knocked on the door opened, there was no one there. Then he walked in and said, hello, is anybody here? And there wasn't anyone. So it was very strange. So what he did was he then decided that he would go back to his car and just park the car, and he would sleep there, and if anyone came he'd say he was really sorry. But as he was leaving, he noticed that a room over on the left, there was a meal for one person. He thought, this is really strange. Anyway, so he parked his car and came back in, shouted, anybody here, anybody here? There was no one there, so he thought, well, okay, maybe it's someone really kind and they've made me a meal. So he ate the meal, and then he was just about to go out to sleep in his car when he saw through the other door a really comfy bed. He couldn't resist it. He thought, right, well, if they'd given me a meal, they probably wouldn't mind me sleeping for a little bit. So he went to sleep, and he was just going to sleep for like 20 minutes. But he fell asleep, and he didn't wake up till the next morning. So he woke up a bit flustered, like this. Oh. And anyway, there were some clothes on the bed, some new clothes. Exactly like his, but brand new. Not all old and with horrible lids and dirty because he'd been working so hard in the garden, but really nice new clothes. So he put on the new clothes and he was going to leave, and then again there was breakfast. So he went in, ate breakfast, and he was just walking towards his car to go back home when he saw, over in the far side of the garden, a white rose bush. So he thought, oh God, I'd just get one rose for my lovely Beauty because she'll be so happy. So he went over and he had his Swiss Army knife, and he got it out, and he got a little scissors, and he cut off this one rose. And this one rose, he thought he'd give it to Beauty, but suddenly he heard behind him, and he turned round, and he was terrified because there was this great big monster. It was like a person, but the face was covered in hair. Scary, like all the scary things you see in scary films, like this. And then this beast said to him, what are you doing? Whose food did you eat? Whose bed did you sleep in? Whose clothes are you wearing? And you repay me like this by taking my flour. And the merchant, the business family said, I didn't mean it. I'm so sorry, beast. I didn't mean it. Please forgive me. And the beast said, no, you shall die. He was just about to attack him when the beast suddenly felt sorry for him because the merchant was crying, and he said, it was just for my lovely daughter. And the beast said, okay, you can live as long as you bring to me next week the thing that you first see when you return home. The merchant thought, okay, yes, of course, because he couldn't argue, otherwise he'd be killed by the beast. So the merchant got back in his car with the rose, and he drove back home. And as he was driving, he remembered that when he was leaving, the only one of the three daughters who waved goodbye was Beauty, because the other two were upstairs, playing on their PlayStations, reading magazines, looking at their makeup, being horrible. So Beauty had waved, and he was really sad. He turned round into the little house, and there was Beauty, standing at the front doorstep. Hello, Father! She was really happy to see him, but of course, the minute he saw her, his heart sank, and he was terribly, terribly sad. Anyway, so he explained what had happened, and he said, but I don't care, I'm not going to take you back. But Beauty said, a promise is a promise. If you've promised to take me back to this beast's house, then we must go. So the next week, the father and his lovely daughter Beauty drove back to the beast's big, big house. And in the big house, they sat down and there was a meal for two. And as they were eating, suddenly they heard a sound. And Beauty turned around like this. And she was so surprised because the beast was so strange and ugly looking. Anyway, The father had to leave his daughter there. It was really sad. But anyway, the daughter was able to use anything she wanted to in the house. And this house was even bigger and more full of things than the house in London had been. So she was okay. She had like a little iPad she could go on the internet with, and then she had lots of flowers she could pick. There was like 3 different TV channels. There was a DVD library, like there was DVDs, and there was like a library on the internet. You could see any film you wanted. There was a swimming pool and a jacuzzi. So she had an okay time, but she did miss her father quite a lot. Anyway, the days went by, and what happened was this. The Beast, although he looked scary, Beauty began to notice that he was actually really kind, and he was always really nice to her when he spoke. And then in the evenings, she would be eating, and the Beast would say, "May I come in?" And she would say, "Yes, join me, Beast." And they would sit and talk together, and they got to know each other, and they got to be friends. And so instead of just thinking of him as this ugly monster, she began to think of him as a really nice guy that she just sort of knew, like friends. Anyway, so what happened was the Beast one day said, "Am I very ugly, Beauty?" And Beauty, because she was always honest, she had to say, "Yes, Beast, you are very ugly." "And am I very stupid, Beauty?" But this wasn't true. So Beauty said, "No. You're not stupid. I enjoy talking to you. You're friendly and kind. You never say anything horrible to me. You're a very, very nice person underneath your beastliness." So anyway, they got on quite well, but then one day, this is something I forgot to tell you actually, in the room where they were, there was this special sort of webcam thing, and there was this mirror on the wall, and then you could see anything you wanted to with it, because it's like magic, because there's been some witches around the area. So in Norfolk there were like stories of witches. So Beauty knew this, and she looked in the mirror, and by the mirror it said, "If you look in this mirror you can see things." So she looked in the mirror, and she looked really carefully, and all of a sudden the mirror changed from her picture to a picture of her father, ill, in bed. "Oh, I'm unwell," he was saying. And there's nobody looking after him. There was no one at all. Just him alone, because the horrible sisters weren't doing what they should have been doing and looking after their poor dada. Beauty was very sad about this. So that evening when she was eating and the Beast came in, he could see she'd been crying because her eyes were all sort of puffy and her makeup had run a bit. And she was like this. And Beauty said, "What is wrong?" And she explained that her father was ill. And so the Beast said, "Okay, you can go home to your father, and if you come back in 1 week, then I will know that you really do like me and you're not just pretending." Beauty was overjoyed, and the next day she got a taxi, and she took a taxi all the way back to her father's house, and she looked after her father, and then for a week he got much better, and then at the end of the week she thought, well, I don't really want to go back to the Beast just yet because he's not quite well enough, and those other sisters, they weren't doing anything. In fact, one of the ugly sisters, the horrible ones, had left home because she found a boyfriend who owned like a load of shops, and he had loads of money, so she just left the father even though he was ill. Anyway, so Beauty was there, and she decided to stay just 1 more week, but then after only 3 days she was in bed and she had a weird dream like this. Oh. And in the dream she saw that the Beast was lying on the grass near the white rose bush and was crying and looked really ill. So she woke up, and then she remembered that the Beast had said to her, "If ever you want to come and see me again, here is a number you can use for my private taxi service." So she put this number into her phone, beep, 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 and then she phoned this private taxi company, and then they came and got her and took her straight back to the place where the huge house in the country where the Beast lived. Now, first of all, she went in the door, and she knew that she only saw the Beast in the evenings. She was waiting like this, waiting, but he didn't turn up. And then she realised that maybe what she'd seen in her dream was true. So she quickly ran out of the house over to the white rose bush, and there was the Beast lying hidden on the other side of the bush, sad and dying. And he looked up and said, "You've come back to me, Beauty. You've come back to me." And Beauty said to him, "Yes, I've come back to you. I can't stand life without you. You're so lovely." And he said, Really, but I'm going to die now because you made me so sad because you didn't come back straight away, so I'm not going to eat again." She said, "No, I'm here, and I would love to marry you. Please marry me." Oh, and immediately the Beast got really happy and started getting better. And Beauty, because she was so emotional about what she just said, she started crying like this. I'm so happy, I'm so glad you're well, Beast. And she put her hand down, but his hand, it wasn't all hairy with great big long nails like it had been. It was a normal human hand. She said, what is this? She opened her eyes, and there, lying in front of her, wasn't the Beast, but a really handsome young prince, all dressed in the coolest clothes and looking really amazing. Beauty said, what are you? What's happened? Where is the Beast? I love the Beast. And then the prince sat up and explained to her that a witch many years ago had put a spell on him because, do you know why she put a spell on him? It was really strange. He had just happened to be walking past her garden and he'd seen a flower and he'd gone to take that flower and she got really angry with him. So that's why the Beast was so sort of sensitive about flowers. Anyway, so he explained that she put a spell on him, saying that he would look like a scary, horrible beast forever and ever, unless a beautiful lady said she would marry him. And you, he said to Beauty, you are that beautiful lady, and we will marry and be happy forever. Now it turns out he was a rich prince, and he had a massive, like even bigger than that house, a huge house, and he owned like a great big kingdom. So Beauty got married to Beast. Though he wasn't a beast now, he was a really handsome prince. And she invited her father. She also invited the two ugly sisters, but they were so jealous and upset they didn't want to do it. They said, well, I'm not going, I refuse. Because they started going there and they saw this big house. They were so upset and jealous that they just turned around and went away. And they didn't have nice lives. Because you only have a nice life if you try and be nice to people. You just try. Maybe sometimes we fail, but as long as we try to be nice, that's all. Ugh. Anyway, they had a lovely wedding, and then they lived happily ever after because they had some children, which is quite nice for them. Actually, they had 2 children, and then they wanted the 3rd child, but it was really difficult. So they had to go to doctors. And then with these doctors' help, they had managed to have a 3rd child. And life was really, really busy for them, but it was okay. They had a nice time. And then they went on living and living forever and ever. And they lived happily ever after. So that was a really, really amazing story that my friend had told me about Beauty and the Beast. So if you enjoyed the story, remember to leave a like, and there'll be more stories like this because I keep hearing this strange story. I've got another friend and he lives in Scotland and he told me about this really, really strange story with this pancake, and this pancake got... Anyway, I'll tell you about that one another time. So I hope you enjoyed it, and remember to leave a like, and if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Bye for now.